Hello and welcome to Salonpreneur Magazine, the podcast. Today I'm joined by Debbie Allen, one of our collaborative columnists, and we're going to be here talking about second edition of Salonpreneur. And we're on iPad today because it's literally just gone to print, so I don't have it in hand yet. But we're going to be talking about the Debbie's article in the second edition, which is all about making peace with our periods, ending the stigma of hormonal burnout, because it's something that as a hugely female industry is a massive issue that even as women, it can get brushed under the carpet. And so I'm going to bring Debbie in today, just have a little chat about, probably really just go through maybe our experiences of how the world has treated us as women, because that's really what the article is about, isn't it? So we just do a bit of a deeper dive, a little bit more about what's in there. So hello, Debbie.
Hi, Sue. Thank you for having me on. And it's lovely to be able to actually openly write about something like this, because there's so much about menopause, which now is quite acceptable. It's on primetime TV all the time, but not so much about those poor, for more of our lives, we've spent having periods, to be fair. And in all that working life, raising kids, working and salon life, having all sorts of hormonal disruptions isn't easy.
No, absolutely not. And I think it's something that as a salon owner, being a female, I think we sometimes, especially like for me, I've always been very fortunate. My periods haven't impacted my life massively. I've had PMT, mood swings and emotional breakdown far more than anything else. Odd days of cramps and stuff and headaches. I did have a lot of headaches in my 20s and 30s. But generally, when I look at a story like yours, or I look at a story like my daughter's, who can be literally curled up in a ball in agony for days. And I think as female employers, it's really hard to kind of, if you have had an easy journey, to feel, I don't know if feeling sympathy, because you do feel sympathetic, but I think it's like, we're trying to run a business here and I get on with it, so why can't you? And I think that that's kind of a little bit about what you're talking about in the article as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think also we shouldn't have to get on with it. I think as there's been all of the stuff and we've now got really good medications for all your menopausal symptoms, it doesn't feel quite as equal for those, that you're going from your teens, to late 40s, early 50s, for some people still suffering monthly. And rightly, as you said, you maybe didn't suffer with the cramps and everything, but that PMT, when you're in a salon being all things to all people and you're taking forward everybody else's problems when they're coming in, you want to give your very best to your client, and then you just crawl home at the end of the day because you're feeling, that horrible feeling, isn't it, that you can wake up with premenstrually, where you hate the world and you feel the world hates you back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was probably far more my experiences. I just got very angry a lot of the time, very moody.
I mean, some people get very angry, some people just get really low, and I think I would have had a mixture of both. That I felt very, very low, very down in myself, but it wouldn't take much to spark an anger thing, and it was managing that. And then on the same, then you think, oh no, my period's come now, oh my God, but I've got such bad cramps, I'm actually vomiting with it. So I mean, I could literally lose 2 weeks a month through the dips and the lows and then you'll go to the doctor or your GP and it's still happening now. I mean, you just get a pain med, nobody really, it takes ages to get anything diagnosed, and when they do, quite often the treatments I found were worse than the symptoms.
Yeah, definitely. I've had that experience from so many people. And I think especially one of the things that you talk about in the article is about endometriosis. And I know, obviously you experienced that. I've got people close to me that have experienced it, and I've watched them struggle and suffer with it for years and have their whole insides bound together by it. And the pain it causes is so extreme. And I know Naga Munchetty from BBC Breakfast, I know I've seen her. She's a really big advocate for endometriosis. And I think that she is actually one of the people that is like an ambassador for the Endometriosis Society, possibly. And I know she's done an awful lot about it. But I think that, you know, we just don't recognize it as something, you know, so many women, and I don't know if you'd agree with this, but I think that it seems to be, whether it's just one of those things that because we now talk about it more, then not everybody seems to, it is much more common, or is there a rise in it? And that always, because once you start, it's like menopause. Now, everybody's got loads of menopause symptoms, whereas before everyone just had hot flushes and got the hump every now and again. But all of a sudden now we know that there's all these other symptoms. That all of a sudden everyone's got all the symptoms. So is it just a case of like, you know, that thing of like, you know, oh, we've all spotted the car we've seen 300 times, but now we've bought it. You know,
there is that. But I also think, I'm in my mum's era. I know she suffered through the menopause. She will still say, oh, I didn't have any problems. And we lived through it, you did. But would still say, and I do think there's that stigma, oh, I've always been fine, I'm fine. And I think that was the same with the periods and with the problems. It's quite often, but that's just normal. And GPs just don't have the training in it. It's so brief. And, you know, and I've seen a gynecologist who's, you know, completely messed things up for me, and female gynecologist, and it was like, well, it's your fault. Well, it wasn't. It wasn't my fault. I had the treatment you suggested. It's left me worse off. You're the medical expert. So it is finding, you know, the right, and I think we should actually be bold enough with our health to say, I don't feel you're the health professional for me. I need a second opinion. Someone who is concerned about this and who is looking at treatment, who isn't, I mean, even with that severe PMDD that many women get, I mean, it's debilitating. Who wants to go into that black hole and feel that awful? But the psychiatrists, it's not really in their training, it's not in their remit.
I'd seen it, that in reference somewhere, and it kind of passed me by. And then when I was reading through your article, I was like, I'm going to go and look at this, because I've seen it before and I didn't actually know what it was. And I think it's like a new terminology, or maybe it's just one that's come to the foreground now. Women's health is maybe becoming a little bit more important. So can you just, if anybody hasn't read your article yet and doesn't understand what it is, could you just briefly give a overview of what it is?
PMS is quite common.
Yeah, that's why I used to get.
Not everyone will own up to it. Because I can also remember my daughter saying, when she used to really fly off the handle at home, it's nothing to do with a period. It's the fact that that's the time when Dad chooses to push her buttons and irritate.
Of course.
But he's irritating all the time. So
that's it. They don't change. Just we're just more tolerant or less tolerant.
And I think we all find that going through teenage years. It's those dips and highs, and then maybe we get more to manage it or understand it a little bit, but even avoid doing certain things. Oh, I'm not gonna meet up with them because I can't cope with my mother-in-law that time, that sort of thing. PMDD is more severe. It is a point of it really, really does affect mental health. It's a real dip in hormones. That can't be controlled. It's not just I'm having a blue day, I'm feeling a bit irritable. It is good doggy. You know, it's a lot more severe than that. And you know, I've known several people try several different things with that, but normally, so the doctor doesn't then go and say, look, I'm going to get you a really good nutritionalist. We're going to get really good help for your mental health, because you do need to learn to recognize and manage some of it. A lot of it is going to be hormonal. The pill isn't the answer.
No.
It's just
the pill made my life a whole lot worse, we realised, over probably the 15, 20 years I was on it. It's horrendous.
For me, the fact that I went on, I'm quite convinced that's where endometriosis started, was being on the pill for contraceptive reasons, but that definitely exacerbated it for me. And obviously medical professionals aren't going to say that. I've known women have hysterectomies. They've had a couple of late 30s, and because they want to get rid of this, but then you've got to go into menopause. You know, you want to get rid of it come on, there has to be and there are much better treatments, but it's finding a medical profession to get on board with and working with, I think, a therapist as well.
Yeah.
You do it. I mean, I wouldn't say it was always PMDD with me, but I can know that some months, especially if your self-care hasn't been up there, you know, if your nutrition hasn't been quite as good as it should, and that's normal for every working mum. If your sleep pattern's been disrupted, again, that's every working mum's pattern. Your kids have been ill, you've been running on empty, you've got even less reserves in the tank for when that hits. And obviously your cortisol levels are going to rise and your other hormones are dipping. It's just, it's a perfect storm waiting to happen. And people need a lot more self-care, but a lot more support. A lot more. The first time I really noticed that I had a bit of postnatal depression, but you know, you get health visitors that come and check on your kids, and so I had a real.
They're far less common nowadays, aren't they? But
didn't see them in person. Well, mine was a pain, and when I moved, I made sure she didn't know where I moved to for a long time because she had nothing but poor advice. So, a young woman dressed like a hippie when hippies weren't a thing in the 90s. So I think it was about 91, 92. And I confided in her that I found I was really struggling time of the month.
Yeah.
Come to me on a low day, and she was anything but sympathetic. So she told me, seen this before. It happens sometimes after childbirth, especially for someone after me who'd had some fertility treatment, you know, hormone changes prior to pregnancy. So, but what her advice was that she'd given another lady, and it worked. This other female that she visited, young mum, her husband worked in London. So what he did, rather than the commute, it's only an hour, but the commute, he had like a crash pad. And when it was the week when she was really struggling with PMS, he stayed away. I said, oh, that's brilliant. So the week I really need help and support with a young baby and I'm struggling on many levels, my husband should stay away. I said, but to be honest, if he did that, I'd say don't bother coming back on a good week. Because if they can't be there to support you when it's tough, what it is, you do need someone who, you know, recognises, look, you need feeding, you need something better. I'll take the bait, you have a nap. All of those things, no, you stay away. You stay away, you keep out of it. No, and I just thought, that's from a health visitor. And I know that's back then, but I'm not convinced that some people don't still think like that.
No, and I know I've been advised today of an experience with a healthcare professional that has been really unhelpful, and not necessarily not about female hormones, but just in a clinical setting that has just been very, very unhelpful. And I think sometimes, you know, they have pressure of work and all that kind of thing, and I think they don't think, and like you say, you know, sometimes the knowledge that they have isn't that up to date or hasn't been full enough, because we all know that, you know, just taking menopause, not that we want to talk about menopause because it's not what we're here for today, but knowing that, you know, most GPs will only have spent a matter of hours being taught about menopause. And I think it's less than a day's worth, maybe, isn't it about something like 3 or 4 hours that they do on that? I know it's the same with vitamin D. When I had my vitamin D deficiency, my GP, I knew more than my GP because I went off and researched it.
And I think we have to do our research. Yeah, we have to do our own research. We have to admit to us and to other people, I'm struggling with all the health and this isn't all in my head.
No,
my head's been affected, but this isn't all in my head. So we need a comprehensive treatment plan on many levels, and we need employer support. It's really hard when you're self-employed, as many are in our industry, because we don't want to burden our clients with that.
No.
But it's working that out, that actually that's not going to be my best week. I'm not going to squeeze in that. I'm not squeezing in that extra client. No. And there will be social engagements that probably might tip me over the edge. So I'm going to say no.
And I think to a degree, actually, and you hit something quite important there, because I do think that with the amount of us that are self-employed, is that, you know, we can, if you're employed, you can't tailor your diary. Most employers are not going to go, okay, we can lighten your load for you. Most employers are not going to do that because they have got to cover their overheads and stuff. So they may be able to adjust the treatments that you do that week. So maybe no heavy deep tissue massaging or anything like that that's going to put extra strain on your body. So maybe those weeks employers could maybe leave you sitting at the table doing like gel polish or something, you know, so that you've got less physicality to what you're doing. But if you work for yourself and you are self-employed, working in your cabin, working mobile, whatever, you have the opportunity to adjust your workload. And actually, I know, and especially if your cycle's regular, obviously with some of these conditions, cycle becomes very irregular, so it makes it quite hard to manage. But, you know, even when it's that irregular, I know when I was going into menopause, I had like, I'd go, my cycle dropped down to like every 18 to 20 days, which was quite horrible. And every third one would be truly awful. And I'd had that thing of like, I can remember being at a pamper evening one night and I leant forward to do something, and we all know that feeling of where everything kind of, that gush drop feeling. They've even got an advert about it now. Which really does jar my head slightly, but you know, we all know that we know how our body works because we live inside it, and so we know that there's points. Actually, I know that on that third month I'm going to have a bad time for about 2 or 3 days, so I can kind of just go, I'm not going to do anything too hardcore then. And just give yourself a break, isn't it? And just tell, you know, and I think the best thing you can do is tell people, actually, I'm not going to be coping well at that point. And I think employers are, I think, especially corporate employers, I know like with my daughter where she struggles sometimes, her employers can be really helpful. And she works from home. She can upload. She's had a bad morning, she can do more work later in the day and stuff. But it is hard. And I think with what we do, because we are so client facing, we can't get away from our responsibilities in the way that you can if you work in an office.
So we need all round support, obviously, until we get to a point where we've found the right treatment to manage it, which is important. And it is important to obviously do the research, but also know that we are worth getting the treatment for. You know, we are worth really looking after ourselves, and we, you know, it's such a long period. You could go 20, 30 years of this. So it's it is, isn't it? If you think how, I mean, I started my periods at 11.
I think I was 12,
and
11 or 12.
Yes, I was 11 round till 50. I mean, that's a hell of a, that's the hugest part.
I kept coping. Mine was going to stop. My mum and my sister stopped when they were about in their early 40s. They were both below 45 when they stopped. And so when I started, I mean, you know this story anyway, but when I started in my late 30s going into what looked like menopause, they kept saying to me, you're premenopausal. It turned out 8 years later, we discovered I'd actually just had like 0 vitamin D in my body. But they would have prescribed me HRT. They would have done all sorts of things because you're just a woman and you're just going to be going through your menopause. So you just go and get on with that. And would you like some HRT? But it turned out to be something very, very different. And I've lost the train of what I was going to say now. What I was going to say. So, but I think like we literally need to make sure that we are understanding what's going on with our bodies, and we've got people around us, like those people that were around me when all that was going on. It got to such a point that I couldn't function, and eventually we realized what was wrong with me. And we worked out it wasn't menopause. That was what I was trying to say. And it actually, I think I was 46 when they told me I was vitamin D nearly 0. And I didn't actually go through my menopause and come out the other side until about 2.5 years ago. So I was about coming up 56. And they got it so wrong. They told me probably nearly 20 years before I went through my menopause that I was menopausal.
So and
I probably was, you know, I was going into that downward turn, but most definitely wasn't premenopausal.
No, and I
was still going through just having a very erratic menstrual cycle. That was all it was. Probably disturbed by the vitamin D. Because vitamin D is a hormone.
But that's why we really need the medical profession to have a broader look. Let's run all the bloods And they're just, and you know what it is at that time. They're like, oh, everything looks fine. Well, we need all of it. We need everything ruled out.
Yeah.
And it's okay for, don't go to the GP, come home with a prescription, you've got pain meds, you've got a new type of pill, oh, we're going to try the coil, we're going to... Actually, no, I want to get to the root cause of the problem.
We need holistic,
and let's address that.
We need a holistic approach.
And we do need a holistic approach, and we do need to have other therapies. We do perhaps need to, to go and talk. I get so many clients through that are struggling with their mental health. And a few adjustments there will make all the difference. And then it raises their self-care game, because they're actually, you're in this position and you've allowed this to continue because you put yourself right at the bottom of the list with everything else that's going on.
Yeah.
Feeling a little bit worthless because you're feeling a bit rubbish and useless, as we do when we're feeling really low at that time of the month.
Yeah.
And you haven't realised you're worth so much more. You wouldn't let your kids struggle through being poorly. And it's like, it's a hormonal thing. So with somebody, if you've got diabetes, they monitor them regularly. You get the right treatment, you make sure their insulin levels up, complete modification of diet or insulin if they're type 1, or there's all the lifestyle changes that can be worked with. But everybody's like, oh, just go away and take a tablet, go and take painkillers.
And I suppose because it's like a natural process, and I think I do think there is a definite gender health imbalance. I mean, although sad, I mean, as we've discussed many a time, men just don't like going to the doctors anyway. But we will go to the doctors, but I think because huge numbers of doctors are men, they don't experience it. It's not their lived experience. They don't understand it because they haven't been taught enough. And they don't know what to do with us when they have because I mean, let's face it, we can turn up in a doctor's if we're feeling in that place and we're a bit hormonal, and I hate that phrase, but if we're out of balance, because that's what it is, our hormones are out of balance. We're not being hormonal, we're being actually probably either super hormone or sub hormone.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that surgery and most often be struggling to hold it together. Yeah. And sometimes it overflows and we get overwhelmed with the situation. But then again, like, I mean, I know I've been dismissed by so many male GPs over the years, and not necessarily around going for my periods, but just generally, they don't have that same level of being able to deal with us as because we're different, and they don't get it. Yeah. And they haven't got the understanding, the knowledge, or know how to deal with us.
They don't have that. And I do think it, when we present, it's not like you've gone in there with tonsillitis, something that's easily easily seen. And they just think of, I mean, back in the day they used to lock women up, didn't they? They used to get locked away for histrionics and electric therapy on your head. They had all that, which they put down to mental.
My an in-law in my family, his mum, his birth mum was actually put into an institution because she had baby blues. And she got sectioned and was held under the Mental Health Act forever. I don't think she ever came out. And he was only born in the 50s.
I mean,
it's mad.
I heard something recently, and it really saddened me because women's sort of friendship group talking about a young mum, and she hadn't done she's just not coping. She doesn't seem to be coping. Well, what are you doing to help? If she's not, it's not that she's inadequate. She's a young mum. She's sleep deprived. She's putting all her energy into looking after a baby. And then you're sort of criticising that, she hasn't taken to motherhood, you're not coping. And I just, how appalling is that? Yeah, she's probably got the baby blues, but let any man go through that.
Yeah.
Level of pain,
don't even get me started.
Go through all of that. But other women saying it, I'm just like, seriously, could you not remember? And a couple of them there, I thought, well, I don't think you did so great at that time when yours were young, but now we're having a little bit of a dig at someone else.
But I think as well that they're good conversations to have. I mean, I know I had postnatal depression. And I was medicated for about 6-8 months, I think.
Yeah.
And during that time, my mum was never a hands-on like mum in that way anyway. So she to still come and see me and things, but she wouldn't come in and take over. She wasn't that kind of person. But one of my older friends she had a son the same age as me, but she'd been a very young mum. So she was only about 18 years older than me. But she used to come round, and she'd come a couple of times a week, and she'd walk through the front door, send me to bed, and she'd do my washing, my ironing, prepare dinner for me, look after the baby. And, you know, and she'd had mental health issues herself. So she understood that I was really not able to function properly. And she really was the saving grace of my postnatal depression period, because without her, I dread to think what Ariana would have been like. But it's really funny because Ariana's my eldest has just turned 30. And we were saying, she actually said she sent me a message to say happy being a mum day. And because this particular person used to help me on Ariana's first birthday, she bought me my first birthday gift as a mum. And she bought me it was like a little tea light holder thing. And she just bought me that and wrapped it all up, all beautiful, to celebrate my first year and actually making it through the first year of being a mum. Because it's hard.
It's really,
I don't think we talk about it enough.
It's really hard. And you know, and you get all of that. Oh, isn't he good? The dad is the dad. He's supposed to be good. But what you really want him to do is, you know, you can't even think about what to put together for a meal, can you? Because you've dragged yourself through that. So yeah, it's all of that. I think we need to be very, very supportive of other women. And sometimes, like you said, you often go to a medical appointment, you know, with a family member. Actually step up if you've got a friend that's really struggling and you go to, shall I come and speak up? Because often we don't speak. It's much harder to speak up for yourself, because you start to feel like, oh, I'm a bit of a drain on the system here. And
and when you're going through it, and when you're going through that as well, and if you are in a place where emotion is overwhelming you, to then sit faced with somebody who, for many people, they believe they're some kind of deity sitting in front of them, and actually all it is, they've been to medical school for 7 years and they've got a qualification. That's it.
A broad spectrum qualification, isn't it? It's very, very broad. Yeah. We've done lots of different bits.
It's very broad. Yeah. And until they specialise, and I think, having worked in the NHS, you know, and I worked in a lot of different departments within central administration at Guy's Hospital. I understood every department. I knew what they all did, and those doctors are just people. But I don't have a fear of them in the way that a lot of people do. And you know, the experience I have of watching people is that their word is law, and actually, no, it's not. We are allowed to challenge it. We are allowed to speak to patient liaison and say, I'm not happy. And we are allowed to take people to our appointments with us to help us talk.
I think we need
things on our behalf.
I think we need I think there is that backup that you need, so that you don't feel you're going a bit mad.
Yeah.
When the doctor, oh look, try this, try that, some tablet you know is not going to do anything. I do think, be open to friends and family and allow someone to come along and support, and don't stop until you get the right help. That's key.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it is. And I think, you know, as employers, as colleagues, as friends, fellow women, we need to kind of hold space for each other with this, because it is something that is never going to go away. We're never going to stop having periods. We're never going to stop having PMS, PMDD, endometriosis, PCOS, all those, and the PCOD. These things are there. Fibroids. My friend used to have a fibroid that was that big, it had a name. You know, but it was called Andy, I think. I'm sure it's what it was called, was Andy. But she ended up having to have a hysterectomy because of it, because it was an intrauterine fibroid, and they couldn't remove it. So the only way to get rid of it was to give her a hysterectomy.
And yet they let it get that big before they dealt with it.
Hey ho. Yeah, exactly. You know, it's just we could talk about this all day, Debbie.
Yeah.
But I think we will leave it there, because otherwise, and it is, and maybe it's something we do need to actually, you know, discuss more openly in the industry about that imbalance of male to female healthcare. Because it's definitely there.
Yeah, because this is with us for our whole working lives. Yeah. And there's probably not a woman that hasn't been affected in some way at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like you're saying, I mean, I had my periods for 45 years. And you know, my mother-in-law was very fortunate. She only had hers for about 17. So, you know, we're like opposite ends of the rainbow kind of thing. But I think it doesn't matter whether you experience them for a very short period of time or you experience them for like nearly a whole lifetime. It's sometimes it's a challenge, and we need to understand that challenge needs a little bit of assistance sometimes. Definitely. Anyway, so I will speak to you next quarter, ready for where we're going to be, January next month. So I'm looking forward to that. So thanks very much for coming on today, Debbie, and speak to you next time.